Hello everyone. Today's poem is Xiaoya, 节南山, a Xiaoya poem from the Book of Songs. I came back to Hong Kong yesterday by the Hong Kong-Macau Zhuhai Mega Bridge. So there were only 3 persons, including me, of course, in the bus, and you should know there's only 5 shifts of the bus a day. So I take the 2 p.m. bus, and only 3 of us is returning Hong Kong from the mainland China. And I should have 14 days lock-in in my home. So you can see I have this wristband, and this was used by the Hong Kong government to track down my locations to ensure I stay in my home for the whole 14 days. Okay, let's get back to the poem. Starting from this poem, we entered to a new subchapter of Xiaoya, which was so-called 节南山之10, the 10 poems of 节南山. And 节南山, this poem was the first poem of this subchapter. The title 节南山 normally was explained as this huge high South Mountain. 节 means the big and high. Anyhow, I do believe it's more likely to be a loan words, a borrowed words of 接. So it's with this character, it means wow, this South Mountain. 接 is a sound simulation word of signing. Could be a positive feeling, could be a negative feeling, but it's with very strong emotion feelings. This poem was categorized as a blaming poem. So basically, we know the classic explanation will categorize the poems in the Book of Songs as 2 main big categories: the praising poems or the blaming poems. Anyhow, today we don't think that's the right way to categorize the poems in the Book of Songs, because when the poet or the Zhou people, when they are writing the poems, they don't mean to blame or they don't mean to praise the kings or the noble persons or someone or something. The purpose of them to write these poems is to make the record and let this legacy to last forever to their descendants. So basically that's the main purpose. 诗言志, so that's the words. The poems means to record. And 歌咏言, and we make music, we make rhythm toward these poems and make them as a song. We can sing them, and the purpose to sing these songs is to let them last forever. 歌咏言, 咏 means last forever, and fundamentally these songs, these poems is 言 is the words people talked. The poems means to record. The songs is to use to make the words, to make the poems last forever. 诗言志, 歌咏言. So that's the basic philosophy, that's the fundamental philosophy for Zhou people, for the poet who was writing this poem. Okay, let's get to the poem now. 节彼南山 维石岩岩. Wow, that South Mountain over there, the rock on it are so huge and so high. 赫赫师尹，民具尔瞻. the outstanding, the famous high-ranking officers. The people are all looking at you. 忧心如惔，不敢细谈。I was so worried, my heart was like burning on the fire. I dare not to make any jokes with others. 国既卒斩，何不用奸？ That town, that city has already been broken, been destroyed. Why not we look it carefully? So this is a long poem, and one paragraph talks a lot of things. We just finished the first paragraph. Okay, let's review the first paragraph as a whole. So at starting point, he signed. Of course, he was sitting or standing somewhere below, under the South Mountains. He was looking to the South Mountains. That huge rock, that high rock, was so outstanding. And he compared those high-ranking officers as those huge and very high rocks on the South Mountains. So that's a very, very ordinary general comparison by the Zhou people. The high mountains is the most things the most close things to the sky. The sky is the god, is the king, and someone on the top of the high mountains is the noble persons, is the high-ranking officers. And so at the very beginning, it looks like a praising to those high-ranking officers. They are so outstanding and famous. And the words 诗引 very probably refers to type of person. 诗 today refers to teacher, and in the Zhou dynasty, it has a very little responsibility as a teacher. His main responsibility is the military general, and Yin refers to the highest officers, ranking officers, as a civil servant. So this is quite like today's government. We separate the civil servant from the military officers. And so the first two pair of sentences compared those most high-ranking officers, no matter it's a military general or the civil servant. They are quite outstanding, and they have the responsibility for the whole country, and people, all the people under him are looking to them. And then the poet start to express his own weariness. 忧心如惔, my heart was like burning, and I cannot make any joke. Because the city, where probably the capital, was destroyed already, and there's nobody look into that carefully. So that's a big thing, because when we make something wrong or something is wrong, it's okay, shit happens. But when that shit happens, we should look that carefully and try to thought about that and try to resolve or try to prevent that misfortune or mistake again. So in the first paragraph, we know something big, some big disaster happened. A very big city or even the capital was destroyed. But the people here, we can relate the high-ranking officers at the very beginning of this paragraph to the last sentence, 何不用奸? Why didn't those high-ranking officers look carefully into this disaster. The capital was destroyed. It's a huge disaster. Why didn't they do anything, try to resolve the problem? Why? So the first paragraph raised a huge question to us, and of course, in the surface, to the high-ranking officers, the 赫赫师尹. Okay, let's get to the second paragraph. 节彼南山有实有其. Wow, that South Mountains, it was such abundant South Mountain with all kinds of creatures, fruits, and it's the fruits, the creatures that grows in the South Mountain are so big and so strong. 赫赫师尹不平谓何. Those outstanding, famous, high-ranking officers, they make the whole country disturbed in a disturbance, and we cannot see anything. The 不平 means their governance that don't flatten the whole country, which means the whole country was disturbed. 为何 means the citizens, the vast majority of people, they cannot say anything. 天方荐瘥，丧乱弘多. The country and the sky experienced many famines and pandemics. There's so many lives lost, and there's so many turmoils. So the words is actually it's quite simple for the Zhou people, but there's some of the characters we don't use or don't explain as today. 见 in here means the famine, starving. 瘏 means pandemic. 丧 means the life lost. 乱 means turmoil, because when there is a famine, there is pandemic, the society is quite easy to go to a turmoil if there's no good governance. So all this reflected, there is some disasters by the nature, by the heaven, but on the other hand, the governance is so bad, and that make the disaster more disaster. 民言无嘉，憯莫惩嗟. The rumors among the people has never good words toward the king and toward the high-ranking officers. There could never stop the signing of the people. The sign, of course, is a very, very sad, negative sign. People are lost lives, lost their families. So it's a very, very sad situation. The character Jia means the positive words, praise word. Of course, at this time, people is all complaining, blaming. 残 means ever. So the right sequence should be 莫残惩戒. So there never ever stop the signing. 惩 means to stop, to correct the signing. The second paragraph further described the disasters. There's pandemic, there is famines, and the high-ranking officers, they don't well managed the country, and all the people was so furious, and they all sang sadly. Okay, the third paragraph. 尹氏大师维周之鰐. So 尹氏大师could still refers to two people or two type of people. 尹氏 we know from the history that 尹氏 most of the time in the West Zhou dynasty, this family serves as the civil servant to record the history, to do the most high-ranking officers of the civil servant. 大师, of course, the highest rank for the military armies, the general, commander. So here it still could refers to two type of people, or maybe very dedicated to person of the time. It's hard for us to understand what it means, but for the people of the time being, they should when they read this character 尹氏大师, they should know very clearly if it refers to two dedicated person or it refers to all the high-ranking officers, both the military generals or the civil servants. But for today, we cannot know that. 尹氏大师维周之鰐. Those high-ranking officers, they are the foundations of the Zhou dynasty. 底 is a long word. It refers to the very foundation flat stones in the family's temples, and that's the foundations, of course, for the Zhou dynasty. 秉国之钧, 四方是维. So here it actually tells their responsibilities. What's their responsibilities? It is they should weigh the whole country fairly, and in this way, all the countries, all the states in four directions, they was connected well, and they was tied up to the king of Zhou, to the central government. 钧 is a unit of weight, roughly 14 kilograms, and here it means to balance, to weigh all the things the state fares fairly as the balance. 天子是皮，彼民不迷. You are the support, you are the assistant to the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven is the King of Zhou, and with such, let the citizens, let the people don't lost their way. So here, the poet continues to describe the responsibilities of those high-ranking officers. They should wear all the state affairs very fairly and let all the states to be consolidated. And they are the assistant to the king of Zhou and lead the way of the people, of the citizens. Okay, the last pair of sentences in the third paragraph. 不吊昊天，不义控我师. You don't pay your condolence to the vast heaven. You make something wrong and let our army went to the dead end. 吊 is another word in the traditional Chinese. It means to pay condolence to the dead people. So why they should pay condolence to the heaven, to the skies? Because the capital, the huge city was destroyed and people suffered a lot of people died. So that's a big disaster, that's a big sorrow from the heaven. They should pay their condolence to the heaven in that way. And they have another guilty that they make the they lead their army to the dead end. 不亦控我师. So that's the third paragraph. It points out what's the responsibility for those high-ranking officers, but in their reality, they don't pay respect to the heaven, and they actually, very likely, they lost their army, which is a very essential power for the country. Okay, the third paragraph. 弗躬弗亲，庶民弗信. You don't do the things by yourself. You don't do the things friendly with the brotherhood, with the feelings of being a big family with the same blood, and the people won't believe in you. 躬, the body, one's body, and here means do something with his own body or do something by himself. 亲 means the relationship, the feelings toward each other in a huge family with the same blood. So that's the general social value for the Zhou people. And you can see in this fourth paragraph, the poet start to blaming the high-ranking officers directly. You don't do things by yourself. You don't do things friendly with the brotherhood. Okay, let's continue. 弗问弗是，勿枉君子. You don't ask to other peoples, and you don't go to the real work. Never cheat the laws anymore. 弗问, you don't ask, because a good governor should always ask around our people and then try to balance the opinions of all the people around. So if the governor don't ask, that's a huge mistake, a huge problem in the Zhou dynasty. 士 normally refers to the lower level officers or the craftsmen. So he don't do the real work, or he don't go to the low-ranking officers. So that also means he don't do the things diligently, or he didn't do the things correctly. So he get a lot of the misinformations, and in that way, he by his will, or maybe even not by his will, he always fool around the Lord. He always fool around the king by the wrong informations. 事宜事己，无小人待. Whenever you do something with foreign faraway states or our states of the Zhou country, all the junior officers, the noble persons in charge, die out. So here actually tell us their policies or their way of doing things always do things badly and damage the whole things, even the people who are in charge or the people who was assigned to do the real task, because these high-ranking officers they just in charge of making the plan, making the policies, and then they assign the junior persons to do the real work. 士 means to rule with laws, and 夷 means the foreign and faraway country. They are not very closely linked or ruled by the king of Zhou. 己 means the states under the king of Zhou. 小人 in today's language is a negative meanings, someone very mean, very bad guys with a lot of the bad plans. But in the poems in the Zhou dynasty, 小人 means the junior people, and if it refers as 小子, they are the junior people or son of lords or son of noble persons. And here 小人 normally refers to the low-ranking officers who do the works on the ground. 所所因亚，则无武士。Those small, mean relatives by marriage of you, none of them are good officers. 所所 describes something very tiny and mean. 因亚 means the relatives by marriage. So this sentence means those high-ranking officers, they assigned a lot of the positions officers to their relatives, and they use their power, their rights to make the good for their families, not for all the people. Okay, the fourth paragraph, basically the fury has been so great and get to a very high level, so the poet, just like name calling or finger point, you don't do things by yourself, and you let all the people never trust you again, and you don't ask around, you don't go to the people who do the real work, and you get a lot of them wrong informations with which you cheat our king, cheat our laws. And when you're doing the something big with other states, no matter it's a Zhou states or a foreign states, you do so many things ugly and bad, and let all the junior officers who was in charge to do the things on the ground die out. And at the same time, you point so much your relatives in the government and make the benefits. You are such a mean person, and you are such a bad guy. How could you still be our most high-ranking officers still? Okay, this is a part 1 video for this long poem. I will finish this poem in the part 2 in another video. Bye bye for today.